Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. It certainly was a day all about trade yesterday with the big WTO conference being held here in Nairobi. I thoroughly enjoyed moderating the session all about intra-EAC trade at the Hilton in the morning. ICTSD, who hosted the forum in the morning, and it was great to see the Cabinet Secretary for Industrialization, Aden Mohammed, there as well. He said Africa must industrialize and quickly. We all know that. And he's making great strides towards trying to make that a reality. It was also a pleasure meeting the Minister of Trade for Australia, Andrew Robb. Thank you to the Australian High Commissioner for a very gracious introduction. And also in the afternoon I moderated a Malaysian session with their Minister of Trade, Mustafa Mohammed, and that was very interesting as well, looking at the comparison between Malaysia and Kenya. Malaysia's economy is about 8 times the size of Kenya's, and the really miraculous period was from about 1988 to 1997, when it averaged just below 10% GDP, which is something that Kenya needs to do for a sustained period of time. Macro thoughts, clearly it was all about the Fed. Exactly 7 years ago to the day, after lowering interest rates to virtually zero, the Fed raises rates, first rate hike since the 29th of June 2006, to give you a sense of the import of this particular rate hike. Let me change to some home thoughts. BBC has had this song by Billie Holiday called Strange Fruit on a loop on the radio, and it's extremely powerful. The link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. Do listen to it, and it really makes you, music can cut through so much, can't it, so easily. The Americans, this is Robert Frank. His photographs are being put to auction. He's one of my favorite photographers. He drove across the country several times, made innumerable side trips, and managed to avoid the tourist places, as Mahoney, putting the lie to the notion that it took an outsider from Switzerland to present an image of America its citizens found so alienating. If Frank had been born in Hoboken, he would have been just as much an outsider. Could this book have been made by an American photographer? Absolutely. It just happened not to have been. It depicted an America that most people didn't realize existed, although it was right there in front of everybody. Let me put up a photograph. This is Robert Frank's J, New York, 4th of July. I personally would be interested in the photograph that you surely know that I've mentioned before, which is this one, which is the road. In his introduction to the Americans, Kerouac describes this photograph as a long shot of night road, arrowing forlorn into immensities and flat of impossible to believe America in New Mexico under the prisoner's moon. The only people for me are the mad ones, this is Jack Kerouac now, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, 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 like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars. And then another quote from On the Road, nothing behind me, everything ahead of me, as is ever so on the road. Robert Frank, black and white are the colours of photography. To me they symbolize the alternatives of hope and despair to which mankind is forever subjected. My photographs are not planned or composed in advance, and I do not anticipate that the onlooker will share my viewpoint. However, I feel that if my photograph leaves an image on his mind, something has been accomplished. Above all, life for a photographer cannot be a matter of indifference. And then one final quote from On the Road, Sal, we got to go and never stop going till we get there. Where are we going, man? I don't know, but we've got to go. Political reflections. President Putin's delivering his annual State of the Union address, and it's like a question and answer session. Very interesting. Have a look at this clip of his. Who armed the terrorists in Syria? Who created the Islamic State? He has this ability to cut through the noise and say it like it is. Currency markets: euro 108.55, dollar index 98.69, Japanese yen 122.42, Swissy 0.9949, pound is at 149.63, Aussie is at 0.7201, India rupee 66.645, South African won 1179.23, Real 388.31, Egyptian pound 782.67, and the rand is somewhere just around 15. I'll put up the 3-month chart of the dollar index. I mean, we're in this period when markets can move in reaction, so we've got to watch it. But I think next year, the Fed is predicting rate increases, 4 rate increases of a quarter point. I think the risks are that they go higher than that. So I think we should see the dollar trend higher through 2016. Euro dollar was last trading at 108.55. Let's see how this develops. I think we've seen an important bottom in the euro dollar around 105. Gold last at 1068. I think we'll see triple digits in Q1 2016. Have a look at this oil price fall graph. This is from Jamie at Reuters, and it gives you a clear idea of how far we've fallen. And have a look at this 1-month chart of crude oil, $36.39 last time I checked. Still think we're going low, as I thought all year. Emerging markets: Holger says Argentina to eliminate currency controls with plans to float the peso. That's the only way forward, I think, in so many instances, and Nigeria is another example. Coming to Africa: children lying dead in the street. Burundians bear witness to police crackdown. This is a short video from France 24. I've been speaking about the spillover risk for a while. It's getting worse, not better. UN's ban sends envoy to Burundi after chilling violence. Ban said he would send his special advisor, Jamal Ben Omar, to the region for talks with the Burundi government. An inclusive political dialogue is needed urgently. We must do all we can to prevent mass violence and act decisively should it erupt. Ban told a news conference in New York. What we have seen over the past few days is chilling. Indeed it is. The problem is adjacent leaders have simply not grabbed this by the collar. Their reluctance to sort of internationalize it is because of their own arguments against the ICC. The Seychelles voted on Wednesday in the second round of a presidential election in which the incumbent James Michel is seeking a third term. It is the first time a runoff ballot is being held in the Seychelles, where voting runs over 3 days because of huge distances between some of the 115 islands that are home to 93,000 people. Results are expected late on Friday. Michel, 71, whose ruling party, LEPEP Party, or People's Party in Creole, has been in power for 38 years, is seen as having an edge over Wavell Ramkalawan, a 54-year-old Anglican priest turned politician. I'm confident of victory, Michel said. In a statement, I've been working hard and proof is there for all to see. He is, in my view, a shoe-in. Seychelles has a population of 90,024. That is the smallest population of any independent African state. I took this picture of the view from my workstation when I was in the Seychelles for an Afreximbank conference not so long ago. Afreximbank on that point is planning a $3.5 billion facility in trade finance to ease Africa's forex crunch. Has offered the facility to several African countries and expects to process requests totaling about $2 billion within the next few weeks as a result of requests received from a number of central and commercial banks. It is Afrexim's bank's response to the exceptional circumstances that demand urgent and decisive large-scale support to ensure that the continent is not thrown into recession due to a sudden drying up of trade flows. I wrote a piece on the 2nd of November, the Seychelles, the Afrexim Bank. Do have a look at that. And the president of the Afrexim Bank was here in Nairobi, where he spoke about this being a challenging time for Africa. And he said, in a crisis, be aware of danger, but recognize opportunity. The FT reported yesterday that Barclays is considering scaling back in Africa. Barclays' review came after investor confidence in South Africa was shaken by President Jacob Zuma's decision to change his finance minister twice in less than a week. At a time when the economy is under severe stress, Mr. Staley took charge of Barclays at the start of December. The former JP Morgan Chase executive is examining the bank's overall strategy and is expected to present his plans to investors around the time of its annual results on March 1. He is also expected to announce several thousand job cuts in its investment bank, particularly in Asia. Barclays has had operations in parts of Africa for almost a century, but the recent contribution of the African business to the overall group's profits have been hit by the devaluation of the South African rand against the pound. The African unit's return on equity was 9.3% last year, below the bank's target of 11%. Barclays could decide to sell its retail banking operations in much of Africa, including South Africa, Kenya, Mauritius, Botswana, and Zambia, while keeping some corporate and investment banking activities in the region. The UK bank owns 62% of Barclays Africa Group Limited. Investment bankers said if Barclays did decide to retreat from Africa, it could sell Barclays Africa shares into the market or trigger domestic consolidation by selling the stake to a local rival, such as Standard Bank, Nedbank, or First Rand, saying that one potentially interested party is Atlas Mara. So that's a very fluid situation. Mozambique's opposition leader plans new offensive in the north. The leader of Renamo, Alfonso Dhlakama, broke a weeks-long silence Wednesday to claim he plans to take over the country's north in March or April. Speaking by telephone in a video conference in Maputo, the longtime leader, who has not appeared in public since October 9, said he was alive and well, slamming the propaganda orchestrated by those who have always wanted him dead. He reiterated that he did not want war and would occupy the provinces democratically and politically, but exercise his right of defense in case the government resisted militarily. There will be no ambushes, he said, trying to allay the fears of foreign investors. Have a look at this photograph I took at an Africa Rising conference in Maputo. It's the evening as you look out to the Indian Ocean. Then, of course, they've had all these troubles with their tuna bond, and apparently someone has come up with a solution saying if they made it into, say, a 10-year bullet bond, by that time they would have the gas on stream and they could afford to pay it back. Have a look at the yields on this bond in question. This is Paul Wallace supplying me with that image. South African oil share bounced 2.15% yesterday. It's minus 0.61% year to date. Dollar rand, have a look at the 6-month chart. I don't think it's out of the woods yet by a long chalk. I expect further weakness. Egyptian EGX 30 is down 25.27% year to date. Budget blowout risks breaking through Nigeria's Naira defenses is the headline. In Bloomberg, Nigeria has withstood mounting pressure to devalue the Naira since March, defending the currency against events ranging from the crash in oil prices to being booted out of one of the world's biggest emerging market bond indices. The defense may not hold for much longer. A record 6 trillion Naira budget for 2016 and the prospect of more borrowing to pay for it will increase demand for imports and swell the amount of local currency in circulation, making it harder for President Buhari's government to hold the exchange rate, according to Credit Suisse. Unlike other oil exporters such as Russia and Colombia, which have let their currencies depreciate, Africa's top producer has starved banks and their customers of FX in an attempt to prop up the naira. The naira fell 21% uh, um, between 2014 and early February to a record low of 206.32 before the central bank governor Godwin Emefiele introduced trading curbs that kept the currency in a narrow band and stemmed the rout. Devaluation appears to be a bad word he doesn't want to hear. This is a president whose instinct is to provide for the wider mass of Nigerians, and he just thinks this will be harmful to them. That's the issue. Whether the consequences are bad or otherwise, I suspect the government will continue to try and defend the currency at these levels. I said in January 2015 that Emefiele's finger in the dike strategy is about to be overwhelmed by a tsunami. And although it didn't happen then, it still applies. The day of reckoning has been postponed, but it's predicted and predictable that the naira gives eventually. Very strange event where a spokesman for the Shiite sect in Nigeria, Ibrahim Musa, said that as many as 1,000 of its members had been killed and accused the army of covering up the death toll. The founder of the sect, Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaki, was detained on Sunday as clashes between security forces and sect members continued. Photos of a bloodied Sheikh Zakzaki circulated on social media. I'll put up that photograph. It looks a very volatile situation, and opening up two fronts when you've got a front against Boko Haram might not be such a smart move. Nigerian all-share is at 36-month lows, down 22.24% this year. Nigerian all-share down 22.24% at 36-month lows. The Ghana Stock Exchange is down 12.96% this year. Ethiopia growth clashes with politics as Oromo protests rise. Ethiopia's rapid economic growth needs a burgeoning capital and less dependence on traditional farming. That's pitting the government against members of its largest ethnic group, more than 50 of whom have allegedly been killed in protests in the past month. The upper layers development, but the hidden agenda is how to assimilate the Oromos. Coming to Kenya, the IMF has revised down its projected real GDP for this year to 5.6% from the 6.5% forecast in April, and I've been saying it had to re-rate that lower. I still think it's a little bit too toppy. The Kenya shilling really has been Teflon, extraordinary performance. It's last trading at 102.30. The Nairobi all shares down 10.32% this year. The NSE 20 is down 21.53% this year, but crossed 4,000 again yesterday. Interestingly, quite a strong session yesterday, and it seems to have been built on that today. Once again, thank you for stopping by. Looking forward to the Christmas break, as I'm sure you are as well.